Ready to open the hood? UseTool for the tutorials.
And for car parts, the right idea is the Mr. Auto app. Easy, fast, and with better prices than on the website.
You will find the bulk shock absorbers used in the video exclusively on the Mr. Auto website and through the link in the description. Turn your engine off, pull up the handbrake, pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. To disassemble the front shock absorbers, it is first important to remove the windscreen frame and the windscreen wipers. Before removing the windscreen wipers, place adhesive tape in order to keep a precise indication of their location at the end position. This will make it possible to correctly position them when reassembling. Remove the nut covers from the wiper arms using a flathead screwdriver, and using a ratchet and a 16mm socket, loosen the nuts. Remove the windscreen wiper arms by making small movements up and down. If they are not coming out, we recommend taking a windscreen wiper remover to facilitate the process. Remove the plastic coverings. Take out the waterproofing joint on the windscreen bay by pulling it upwards from one end to the other. Remove the side covers. Then remove the windscreen scuttle panels. You can now access the heads of your car's shock absorbers. As the components to be removed are very often seized up, don't hesitate to brush and to use penetrating oil to facilitate the operation. Using a 7mm Allen key and a 21mm offset wrench, unscrew the nut on the shock head by a few threads. You can use the specific tool used in the video, which will make your task much easier. In order to change the front shock absorbers on your vehicle, you must lift the front of the car and remove the wheels to have complete access to the suspension system. Loosen the stud bolts on the front wheels, raise the front of the vehicle and put it in the two-axle stands. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. You will then be able to take off the wheels. Don't forget to slide them under the vehicle. During this operation, you will work on the steering system of your vehicle. Checks on tyre alignment, when carried out by a professional, will guarantee that your steering system has been perfectly aligned and is in good working order. You now have to remove the stabilizer link bar. It connects to the stabilizer link so that the wheels are always in contact with the ground. To do this, we recommend watching the video How to Replace the Sway Bar Links Peugeot 2008-1. Using a flathead screwdriver, remove the safety lock and the metal cover. To unscrew the hub lock nut, you have to stop the disc rotating. To do this, insert a thin flathead screwdriver between the two sides of the disc. You have to insert it in front of the brake caliper mount so that it butts up against the latter. With an iron bar and a 36mm socket, unscrew the nut on the hub. Then, using a 16mm socket, unscrew the holding screw on the ball joint of the controller. Remove the screw. You can use a drift to help you remove it. Use a crowbar to remove the ball joint from the control arm of the stub axle Remove the hub nut. Then use a drift punch to knock the carbon shaft off the hub. Brush the bottom of the shock absorber and spray it with penetrating oil. This will help with future manipulations. Then, using a socket wrench and a 16mm socket, unscrew the nut on the base of the shock absorber. Then remove the screw. You can use a hammer to help you. remove the brake hose from its housing. Remove the ABS sensor hose. Then the second part of the ABS sensor hose. You can now remove the cotton shaft from the stub axle. Hit the axle stub to release the shock absorber base. Prepare stable, elevated surface to place all of the stub axle once you've removed it. Finish unscrewing the lug nut from the top of the shock absorber. Hold the shock absorber in one hand and finish off the unscrewing with the other hand. Remove the shock absorber.
All parts used in this tutorial are supplied by our trusted partners. These partners also help us create as many video tutorials as possible. Check them out in the description below.
In order to change the shock absorber, you must now separate it from the spring. You can find a description of the tool used in the video, which we think is most adapted to the operation. Careful, pay attention as you compress the spring. This is not without risk and should be undertaken paying very careful attention. Block the tool in a vise. This will make it easier to use. Install the shock absorber on the tool, then tighten the mobile flange against the spring, controlling its position carefully. Check that they're properly held by the locking studs, then slowly compress the spring using the socket wrench and the appropriate socket. Once the shock absorber is free in the spring, you can use a 21mm offset wrench and a 7mm Allen key to unscrew the suspension strut support bearing. Then remove the upper shock absorber support. Remove the shock absorber from the spring. Remove bellows and shock stop. Remove the lower strut support bearings. You will find the bulk parts and products used in the video on the Mr. Auto site and in the link in the description. Take your new shock absorber. You need to pump it several times on the actuator to get the system going. When changing your shock absorbers, you can also change the strut mount as well as the shock bellows and the shock stop. You can also reuse them if they're not too worn down. Put the stop plate in the sleeve and slip it onto the shock absorber. Position everything in the spring. Pay careful attention to place the bottom of the spring so that it supports the shock absorber flange. Then install all the upper spring support, the washer, the lower mount, and finish by screwing in the lug nut onto the shock absorber stem. Make sure it is well tightened. Unscrew the spring compression tool, paying attention to the position of the spring on the lower shock absorber support. You have now finished preparing the new part. Sand and grease the inside of the stub axle to help facilitate the reinsertion of the shock absorber. Start by putting the shock absorber in place. Put the upper suspension strut support bearing, then screw the head of the shock absorber back in, starting the process by hand. Thread the shock absorber base into the axle stub. The bottom positioning pin of the shock absorber foot must be inserted into the opening of the stub axle. Screw the screw at the foot of the shock absorber back in. Grease the end of the drive shaft. Insert the cotton shaft into the stub axle. Roughly, screw the cotton shaft screw back in to hold it together. Reinstall the bolt joint in the pivot. This can be a long and tedious process. Then screw it back on. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Reclip the brake hose. Clip the ABS sensor hose back in. Put the sway bar link back in place. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Tighten the shock absorber base bolt with a torque spanner. Repeat the screwdriver technique to block the rotation of the disc and to be able to lock the hub nut. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Put the metal cover back in place, then the security lock. Put the wheels of the vehicle back on and lower it to the ground. Finish screwing the nut and the shock absorber head. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Reinstall the windscreen scuttle panels. Reinstall the plastic coverings. Put the waterproof joint back on, then the windscreen wiper arms without tightening excessively. Operation completed.
Hi, it's Theo from UseTool. I hope this video has helped you a lot in your car maintenance. We would be super grateful if you could spread the word so that we can produce even more tutorials. Simply give us a like, a comment, and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us boost the channel and help the whole community. Thanks a lot and have a great one.